Hey guys, OG Albina here, and as you all probably know at this point, Pokemon Legends Arceus did just leak to the internet over the last couple days. So today's going to be another video kind of talking about those leaks. In particular, we're going to be talking about the leaked stats and move pools of the new Pokemon in the game, whether that be Suian forms or all new Pokemon. Now, if you do not want to be spoiled, one, I don't know why you clicked on this video. Maybe you clicked on just to save it for next time, by the time you play the game and you wanted to watch. But one, be wary. I'm going to talk about spoilers, obviously, right here. There shouldn't be anything telling in the title or the actual thumbnail or anything like that. We're on the screen right now. We just have a blank showdown background kind of just to tie us over. So you shouldn't be spoiled by anything I've done so far. This is your last warning. I am going to go deep into spoilers. So if you don't know the new Pokemon, anything like that, definitely click off if you don't want to be spoiled. And if you want to be spoiled, hey, let's freaking do it. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please be sure to drop a like as well as comment which Pokemon you think is going to be best competitively, because that's kind of what we're going to talk about if these Pokemon get transferred over to a mainline Pokemon game and what they would look like in like a typical OU or Draft League setting or something like that. Let me know which Pokemon you would think would be the best, what you think their move pools are going to look like, because as of the time of me recording it, I don't know particularly what the move pools are going to be, as well as subscribe to the channel. Again, I would really appreciate it. We're pushing towards 700, and if you could drop a sub for plenty of competitive Pokemon content and a bunch of Legends Arceus stuff, I'd really appreciate it. So yeah, with that being said, 3, 2, 1, we are going to jump into the stats. And again, if you don't know the new Pokemon, I definitely recommend you go check them out. This is a giant chart with all of the different Pokemon, obviously. Big shout out to Centro for, this chart. I'll link their tweet down in the description below, just so you guys can see. I know they got it off of like a Reddit thing, so credits to that person. Just like a 3rd level credits. But these are going to be the base stats for these Pokemon. Now, it might translate different in-game, but that's something else I want to kind of talk about really quick. Is, we have the abilities and the stats for these Pokemon deep in the internal data. So there aren't actually any abilities in Legends Arceus. Like, Pokemon don't have abilities. But they're in the game's coding, which makes me think, personally, that at some point in the future, these Pokemon will be transferred over to something like a Sword and Shield copy or something like that. And we'll be able to use them in a mainline Pokemon game, because there's no reason for them to code in abilities for these Pokemon if they can't actually use them ever. You know what I mean? So we're going to kind of be talking about it more so from a competitive Pokemon standpoint, opposed to their use in Legends Arceus. Because that's kind of what we focus on this channel here. So, yeah, with that being said, we can kind of look at Arcanine right here. And we're going to see the Arcanine has base 95 HP, 115 attack, 80 defense, 95 special attack, and 80 speed def, and 90 speed. I'm pretty sure that is an absolute copy of regular Arcanine. So let me go ahead and pull up the team builder really quick. I don't want to show my Draft League teams. So we're going to pull this up over here. Now, let's go ahead and look up Arcanine. It looks like it's a little bit slower than regular Arcanine, which is definitely very interesting. And a little bit a little bit stronger. It looks like it got about 5 taken away from its speed, and 5 put on its attacks. Let's look at the defense. Is it 80-80? It is. 90 HP. It got a little bit more HP as well, and then lost some special attack, I presume. It definitely lost some special attack, which is definitely very interesting. Yeah, it lost 5 special attack. So it lost 5 special attack by speed, and it got added to its attack and HP, which is definitely a nice little trade-off. The 9.5 speed tier is definitely a really nice speed tier, so it's a little bit unfortunate, but it makes sense. It's a little bit slower, a tiny bit bulky, and a tiny bit stronger. Fire Rock is a really solid offensive typing, so if it has the combination of like Flare Blitz, plus obviously it'll have like a Rock Slide or Stone Edge, or even if it gets like Head Smash for offensive coverage and it keeps like close combat, which it has right now. Does it get any ground? Like Stomping Tantrum? You get Scorching Sands and Bulldoze, which isn't bad. Plus like a Morning Sun, you can see this thing with like a Heavy Duty Boots. It would definitely be very solid. And as for the ability, we'll kind of jump over to the abilities thing. We'll kind of look at them one by one. And obviously you'll see spoilers for the other Pokemon on here as we go throughout. But it looks like, as of right now, and again, this could change, and it could just be because they're coded in to have the same abilities as other ones. They have the same abilities as before: Intimidate, Flash Fire, and Justify, which definitely makes sense, though, if that is the case. Intimidate's obviously a phenomenal ability. Flash Fire giving it a fire immunity if you for some reason need it. Even though you're 4 times resistant to it, sometimes it's just nice to have an immunity or something to where moves can't be spammed and things like that. And Justified, not the most useful ability for something like an Arcanine, but not the biggest deal in the world. Definitely could be a really solid Pokemon. I think regular Arcanine might be a little bit better, because Pure Fire is actually a better defensive typing in my personal opinion. You're getting a lot of 4 times weaknesses, and you're adding a couple weaknesses that rock. It's pretty annoying for it. So not the best defensive typing wise, but still not terrible, and it still has great natural bulk, and it's still gonna punch holes through teams and, you know, be a genuine nuisance and things like that. I guess I should kind of move this over so you guys can see the stats a little bit better. And you guys can still see this. You can still see this. Okay, yeah, that's much better. Sorry that the angle is so off. My bad, y'all. But let's go and look at the next one. We have Hissuin Electrode. I'm not going to touch on this one too much. We'll look at it and compare its stats to regular Electrode. It was actually not in Sword and Shield, which is funny. It has about the same base special attack, right? Only 50 base attack, which is about the same. 150 speed, which should also be the same. 80, 70, 60 from the bottom up. 80, 70, 60. So it looks like it's actually the same exact carbon copy over stats from regular Electrode. It's cool though because it does get that dual typing and what do you call it? Grass and electric, which is a very solid dual stab typing. The electric typing really does appreciate that grass coverage for sure. So that's definitely very solid. You know, it'll probably be better than regular Electrode. At least in my personal opinion. I think Voltor will actually be really good in Little Cup with that base 100 and then its great stab combination. In Little Cup in such a momentum-oriented metagame, I think it'll be really solid, especially in Little Cup Draft. As for abilities, it looks like it has the same things: soundproof, static, and aftermath as far as we know. And I'm assuming it'll have a very similar move pool as it has it now. Just maybe with like Leech Seed, or I know it for sure gets Energy Ball because we saw Voltorb using it in the actual trailer itself. So definitely makes sense. Let's go on to the next one. Let's go into his Suian Typhlosion. Now, this Pokemon I know had a little bit of loss of speed and a little bit of a gain to its special attack. I believe it lost 10 speed, correct? Lost 5 speed. Gained about 10 special attack, so it lost something else somewhere else. It looks like it lost 10 attack as well. But honestly, that's completely fine. I'd much rather having that 119. 119 is a lot more threatening than something like 109. It really does help. 95 isn't that bad of a speed tier, dropping from 100. You're still going to be outspeeding and being near the same speed as a lot of things. 95 is a really common speed tier still too, so not the worst thing in the world. Not time based 100s anymore is a little bit annoying, but not the biggest deal in the world, to be completely honest. But yeah, Ghost Fire, very solid offensive typing. I could see this thing being very solid in that respect. So. You know, it'll probably just be better Typhlosion, potentially. Though, I guess your Scarf speed tier is going to be a little bit worse. And depending on if this thing gets Eruption or not, it could be weird, but... Next up, we have Qwilfish. Hissuin Qwilfish, which I believe is a Dark and Poison type. Rocking out with 95, 55, 85 offensive stats. Pretty simple stuff. The one thing that's going to be cool about this thing is if it does get access to with like spikes and T-spikes and, you know, still gets Thunder Wave and Pain Split and all this thing. This thing was an Eviolite and having Intimidate as its abilities, which it still does have. And I guess we didn't really look at Typhlosion. Still has the same abilities, but when it comes to Qwilfish, it still has Poison Point, Swift Swim, and Intimidate. So I don't know if it'll keep Swift Swim. I don't know if that's just like because that's Qwilfish's base abilities. But it looks like Overqwil has the same thing, so it might be that. But this thing with Intimidate, plus its great, you know, what do you call it, move pool? Utility move pool, could be a really solid Eviolite using Spiker. Qwilfish is already known for being really bulky and annoying for a low tier water, and just being a general nuisance with, like, you know, Intim plus Rocky Helmet. But if you double that thing's defenses, essentially, or 1.5 times its defenses with an Eviolite, it's going to be really annoying. We can kind of jump down to Overqwil too while we're here, because it is an entire new Pokemon. 85, 115, 95, 65, 65, 85. So that speed tier in 85 is actually really solid. It keeps the same speed tier as Qwilfish and just gets stronger and bulkier, which is definitely very solid. With this thing having, you know, like a solid, you know, utility move pool at that base 85 speed, is going to be really solid just like Qwilfish, but it's going to be a little bit fatter. And it's going to be a lot stronger, which I think is a really cool part of Qwilfish. Because Qwilfish is a little bit passive in some matchups, but 115 is definitely a little stronger, and he also has a super sick design and a really funny name. So I'm super here for Overqwil. That's for damn sure. Now, when it comes to the next Pokemon on our list, we have Sneasel, Hissuin Sneasel. We can talk about this thing and disgusting, the worst Pokemon of all time. What's its name? Sneezler, who's just basically more Sneasel. And I think that's why I hate him so much, because Sneasler just looks like a longer Sneasel, and his name is just like more Sneasel. It's Sneezler. It's more Sneezler than before, and I hate that. I want it to not happen. But I believe Sneasel keeps about the same stats. And then I did want to compare Sneezler to Weavile. I know that it's slower for sure. Weavile's base 125 and has 120 attack. See, Sneezler is actually 10 points stronger, though, with still a phenomenal speed tier in 120. That honestly might be a little bit better, and Poison Fighting plus a 120 speed tier will actually be pretty crazy. So if this Pokemon's just good, this Pokemon's move pool is good, it might just be really, really solid. As for its abilities, we have... Let's look at Sneezler. Sneasel has Inner Focus, Keen Eye, and Poison Touch. Inner Focus is great for Intim, just being able to block that. And I guess not being able to be flinched. Poison Touch is a very annoying ability, especially with poison types and then probably getting Poison Jab and things like that. Where is good old Sneezler? My boy. He has Pressure and Poison Touch, as far as we know. So it looks like it's Weavile, but it loses, like, the Pickpocket and gets Poison Touch, which is honestly just a superior ability. Really annoying ability for things that might want to switch in to its dual step combinations. Them just getting poisoned for existing and taking a hit is really, really obnoxious. So this thing with, like, knockoff plus Poison Jab, Gunk Shot, or whatever, and then if it get, no, it won't have knockoff, or it might have knockoff. That could be a really solid tool for, like, bulky psychics, but, like, close combat plus, like, Poison Jab or Gunk is gonna be really hard to switch into for a lot of teams. So I'm actually definitely here for Sneezler competitively. I think he's the worst design of all time, though. I hate him. As for Samurott, we have Hissuin Samurott, which is a Water Dark type. Let's go ahead and compare its stats to regular Samurott. It looks like it's a little bit stronger, or it swaps its special attack and attack. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, it swaps its special attack and attack as an 85 speed tier, which is actually a lot faster, so it's going to be a little bit more offensive, and I presume lower bulk. Yes, most definitely, especially in the Spadef. But that's definitely solid. 85 still isn't a great speed tier, but depending on what this thing's abilities are, which we're going to go ahead and look at and see what its hidden ability is. Where is it? Not find it. Horn and Shell Armor. Shell Armor is a nice ability just not to get crit, but it's not going to really help it too much. You know, this Pokemon could definitely be, you know, solid as, like, a lower tier threat. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. It's really just kind of Samurott, again, with an additional typing and stab, I suppose, which is nice for it, but I don't see it being, like, you know, an absolute demon. It's less bulky, a little bit stronger, and faster, which is cool. Hissuin Lilligant is definitely an interesting one. I want to see if they just inverted the stats. So we're going to go ahead and look at it, because it actually turns out to be a physical attacker, or opposed to Lilligant, which is obviously a special attacker with 110 special attack. Then we have Hissuin Lilligant with, where is it? 105 base attack, 50 attack, and then 105 speed, which is really cool. It'd be cool to see if this thing can get, like, a physical Quiver Dance type move, if that is a thing. Obviously being the opposite of, like, regular Lilligant, using Quiver Dance, things like that. But Grass Fighting is a really solid offensive typing, so I could see it definitely having some good niches and uses, especially if it gets good enough coverage, like maybe it gets Rock Slide or something like that. You know, we don't really know what its coverage is going to look like, what its move pool is going to look like, but, you know, this is definitely a solid start. As for abilities, it looks like it has Chlorophyll, Hustle, and Leaf Guard. So under the sun, this thing could be a demon depending on its coverage, like I said. Grass Fighting with Chlorophyll and then just clicking Close Combat and, like, Leaf Blade if it has it or something like that could be really, really clutch, for sure. Next up, we have Hissuin Basculin, which I'm not really going to talk about too much because I don't care too much. I think it has the same speed tier. It probably keeps adaptability if I had to guess. Where is it? Yeah, it has Rattled, Adaptability, and Mold Breaker. So not Rockhead, which is definitely interesting. Maybe the different form has that too, and they just did not put it. But what I really wanted to look at was Basculegion, because we see that the typings, or the two versions of them, are a little bit different. Basculegion is for sure a physical attacker, leans physical, 112 base attack, which is awesome. It's slower, obviously it's a lot bigger, so that definitely makes a little bit of sense. But has 120 HP, 65 defense, 75 Spadef, so not the bulkiest thing in the world, but the HP does kind of make up for it if you're EVing it right. Maybe this thing with an Assault Vest and, like, Flip Turning Around and Poltergeist and Liquidation and, like, Aqua Jet or something like that could be awesome. This thing could still go mixed, though, with base 80 special attack, just like Basculin can. You can throw out big Ice Beams. But the Basculegion, the female version, is actually more of a special attacker. A little bit more mixed, too. It has a lot better mixed capabilities. In 100 plus 92, you kind of trade off that big physical attack for a little bit worse of a special attack and, you know, a usable physical attack set as well. But it looks like its bulk's the exact same, so it's just more of a mixed attacker opposed to a physical attacker, which is definitely cool. Definitely not superposed. And it's Water Ghost, which is a really, really cool typing offensively, especially for, like, a Basculegion, like the male version, especially if it gets, like, Liquidation plus Poltergeist and Flip Turn and, you know, different moves like that, like an Ice Fang or even Ice Beam if you're going mixed. As for Basculegion's abilities, let's go ahead and look for it. Rattled, Adaptability, and Mold Breaker. So you're really going to be using Adaptability a lot of the time, and potentially Mold Breaker in specific scenarios. But Adaptability plus those stabs is going to be really awesome. Really, really solid for this Pokemon. I already like Basculin. I think it's a really cool slept-on threat. But Basculation is going to be awesome. And I definitely hope to draft this thing in Draft League if it does come to Sword and Shield soon here. Definitely a super sick Mon. Next up, we have Hisuian Zoroark, which is about the same. Glass Cannon, 110 base speed. It just has a really cool dual stab combination. It does have Illusion still, so not really going to go over it too much. It's just a really cool offensive dual stab combination, as well as, giving it a little bit more defensive utility than regular Zoroark. It might just be better depending on its move pool that we don't really know too much about. Braviary is actually a special attacker, and it's very, very slow. And I guess it can't go mixed, but it's very bulky too. 110, 70, 70 is pretty solid, to be completely honest. And that Psychic Flying typing does usually tend to, lean more bulky, and there being more bulky Pokemon and stuff like that associated with that typing. So that definitely makes a little bit of sense, but it's definitely interesting seeing Braviary be a special attacker. It's very slow, though, which I did not expect, and I think that's a pretty big downside. I know I would use this thing over, like, a Zatu or something like that, or a Sigilyph or anything like that. I guess it's very bulky, so maybe that's it. And maybe its move pool will be crazy. Let's go actually look at its ability, because I didn't really do that. Where is Braviary? Keen Eye, Sheer Force, and Defiant. So this is what makes me think that maybe these abilities will change if these ever move over to mainline gain, because I don't see why it would be Defiant still. That doesn't make too much sense to me. Sheer Force could definitely be really good on a Pokemon like this, throwing off like Psychics and Hurricanes. That would make it ridiculously strong, to be completely honest, because just Sheer Force is a great ability, so something to keep in mind. Hisui and Gudra, it looks, I actually wanted to compare these stats, because it looks a little bit slower, right? The Gudra's base 80, I believe this one's base 60. There's a lot of base 60s in this, which I've noticed. Yeah, and then 150, 110, 100, 100. Let's look. 150, 110, 100, 100. So it looks like it loses speed in exchange for a little bit more physical defense, which definitely makes sense because it is a steel-type Pokemon. As for its abilities, it looks like a Sap Sipper, Overcoat, and Gooey, which would still definitely make sense thematically for this Pokemon. Still definitely very solid abilities, but Dragon Steel is a great stab combination, especially if it keeps a very similar move pool to Gudra, with things like Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, things like that. This Pokemon will be a lot harder to switch into than regular Gudra. That's for damn sure. I wonder if it gets a Steel move right now. I think it's Iron Tail, that's it. Which is kind of funny, because I guess it does get, a slug kind of behind, which is definitely cool. But that's going to be Suian Gudra. It's just going to be a better Gudra, probably. At least in my mind. I mean, you lose out on that nice base 80 speed tier, but you're a lot bulkier on the physically defensive side, which is really great. And Dragon Steel is a great offensive and defensive typing. And Suian Avalugg, I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. This one's probably going to suck. I believe it's probably just a copy-paste over from, what do you call it, stats? Let's see. 95, 117, 184. Let's see. So it does look like it's a little bit stronger, but it looks like it lost some Spadef. It did lose some Spadef in special attack, I believe, which, honestly, if you're going to lose some of your stats, you probably want to lose those. It did get a little bit faster, which is funny, but, not noticeably faster, which are going to help you. You're, going to outspeed Slowbro now. So, that's cool. Or you're going to outspeed, Ferrothorn. So, that's dope. Good stuff, Avalugg. But Avalugg's going to do Avalugg things, I suppose. I think it'll be worse because Rock Ice is a really bad defensive typing, and Ice is already bad, but Rock Ice is just worse, objectively. You just get so many more weaknesses. You don't gain great resistances. So it's just going to be really annoying, honestly, for Avalugg. But, what do I know? What do I know? Now, Hisuian Decidueye is going to be next up. And this Pokemon is really slow, and that really, really surprised me. But it also looks like it's a lot bulkier. Unless I'm deceiving myself. It has a lot more attack. So it only lost 10 speed. I guess the Decidueye is only base 70, which is, definitely fair. 95, 80 in its bulk. Oh, no, I'm wrong. So it got a little bit more physical defense, lost some special defense, and gained some attack, and maybe gained some HP. Maybe, but, definitely still a good offensive typing. If this thing, does get a decent enough move pool, and is bulky enough, it could definitely be, a really, really solid Pokemon in its own right. So, definitely not the worst thing, in the world. So, yeah, next up, we have... Oh, and I guess we could look at abilities, because I kind of forgot to. Avalugg has Strong Jaw, Ice Body, and Sturdy, and then the Decidueye still has Overgrown Long Reach, which both of those still do make sense. So, next up we have Warrior Deer, with 103, 105, 72, 105, 75, and 65. Definitely interesting. Not the worst stats for in the world. It's normal psychic, and its abilities are going to be Intimidate, Frisk, and Sap Sipper. So, honestly, 3 great abilities. Frisk, especially in like a draft league setting, but Intim and Sap Sipper, both very solid abilities. It's always nice having a immunity just on your team if you do need it, if you're, you know, weak to X grass type move or Pokemon. And then Intimidate's obviously a phenomenal ability. In 99% of scenarios, you can't really go wrong with Intim, which is, again, great. And it's pretty darn bulky too, and if it gets any recovery, that could be really, really solid for this thing. Obviously, it's definitely pretty darn bulky, and normal Psychic isn't the worst defensive typing in the world, and, you know, it could definitely be a fun mon. You know, it's not going to be anything crazy. Next up, we have Clevor, which I'm really excited about, because we see this thing, it's actually decently fast. Base 85 speed is pretty darn fast for a Pokemon like Clevor. I definitely did not think 85. I thought it would be like 65 like Scizor, but it has 135 base attack, which I think is the same as Scizor, and its abilities is what I'm really excited about, because it looks like it actually has Sheer Force listed as one of its abilities, and that is super freaking cool. Swarm, Sheer Force, and Steadfast. Sheer Force is obviously a phenomenal ability, especially when this thing's going to be able to, you know, throw off big rock slides and things like that. It could definitely get some better coverage on top of that as well. That really does help it out. You know, provided this thing's move pool is cool, I really do like that base 85 speed here plus a Sheer Force user, man. I mean, look at Nidoking, one of my favorite mons to use in a draft setting and in just OU too. It's just a great breaker. Now, granted, Nidoking is so good because of its phenomenal move pool, so it really does kind of come down to Cleavor's move pool, how good he'll be with Sheer Force, but I think it's definitely, you know, there's some upside to it. Next up, we have Ursulina. We're getting down there, actually. Looks like we only have 3 more because we went over all these guys down here. We have Ursulina, the evolution of Ursaring, which is normal and ground. This thing has base 140 attack with a normal ground stab combination on top of having access to freaking Guts, which is really terrifying. Imagine this thing throwing off Guts boosted 140 base attack facades for free, as well as stab earthquakes. Very, very, very scary potential right there. I think that mon's really, really cool. It's really slow as well, so it'll probably be very solid under Trick Room, base 50. So this thing could definitely be a good Trick Room asset. It has 130 HP and 105 defense, so physically defensive, it's pretty darn bulky. 80 isn't bad in the Spadef category as well. So this Pokemon could definitely be really solid with the Flame Orb and just absolutely murking things on some like Conkeldurr type beat. So that could definitely be really cool. And lastly, probably the most interesting entry on this list, we have Amherst and Amherst Therium, the new genie that they added in the Gen 4 game, which is pretty crazy. This thing is a Fairy and Flying type. Now, it obviously has a regular form and a Therian form, and the stats are drastically different in both. We'll go over Amherst, just the regular incarnate form. 74 HP, 115 attack, 70 defense, 135 special attack, 80 Spadef, and 106 speed. So, very, very solid speed tier in 106. We definitely take anything over base 100. 135 base special attack, and 115 attack means it's very strong. It has some pretty mediocre bulk in 74, 70, 80, but not unusable. And its abilities in the regular form are very, very good. And Healer, which is not that good actually, but Contrary. And that's what's really interesting to me, because I don't know what moves it's really going to use to take advantage of Contrary. Something I was thinking, I know Blunder tweeted this out, which I think is funny, because I remember seeing this in Discord before I went on Twitter and looked at all this stuff afterwards. He said, watch out for Flurkin and Contrary. And if that's the case, I think this one's like auto banned, see you later type beat, because it'll definitely have like some earth power and like, or some coverage for Steel's Focus Blast. I'm pretty sure all the genies get Focus Blast, so I'd be very surprised if this one doesn't. And with that speed tier and it getting like Contrary Flurkin, it doesn't even matter if it doesn't get great coverage. You're just going to push through everything. There is no such thing as a Fairy immunity, and just being able to boost your stats for free like that just for clicking a button is really, really nuts. So that's something to keep in mind, obviously. Excuse me. And then we have an Amherst Therium, which is almost like, well, it's not even almost the complete opposite. It's just very, very different. 74 base HP, and then saving in its attack stats on 115, 135, but it has 110 defense and 100 Spadef in exchange for 46 speed. So it's incredibly slow. I don't know if you guys remember the design. I don't have it on screen or anything like that. But it's like a, what do you call it? It's like a big old turtle, so it makes sense that he's slow. And its ability in this form is Overcoat, which definitely makes a lot of sense thematically. But if this thing gets access to Roost, and like Calm Mind, that one's going to be really difficult to take down. Fairy Flying, with, I guess, Overcoat's a pretty cool ability, but also being able to Roost Up and Calm Mind, and then, you know, having that great, you know, typing in Fairy Flying defensively, could be really, really solid for this Pokemon. So I'm definitely really excited to see what an Amherst is really like in its move pool and in a competitive setting if we do end up getting those things transferred into like Sword and Shield or something like that. Yeah, definitely really interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think is going to be the best Pokemon in the game competitively if they do transfer over to like a more mainline kind of approach. Personally, I think that an Amherst, and it sucks because these are like my least favorite ones. I think an Amherst will be really good. And I think that, what do you call it? Sneezler, stupid name, has the potential to be really, really solid as well. Like, really good. I really hope Basculegion's good. It's really strong, and adaptability is just a great ability for something like that. It just seems like Crawdon on steroids and just Ghost type instead of Dark type, which is cool. And yeah, I think all of these will definitely be, you know, pretty interesting. Ursulina might be a really cool one as well. That's something else to keep in mind. And Clevor, I guess, for sure. There's a ton of cool ones here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, comment down below what you think is going to be the coolest one. Like if you haven't, sub if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.